Hey everyone, it's Matthew Greenwood again with Fireside Chat and of course New Directions. So look, we're coming to you from my Facebook site, which is Matthew Greenwood Spiritual Journeys, and also My Time TV. Please don't forget to tell your friends and family, anyone that would be interested in tonight. It's going to be a biggie tonight, let me tell you that. And hey Kylie. And please ask questions. That's what we're all about here. It's really important that you ask questions. That really opens the conversation up, because that's what I'm here for, is to answer those questions. So tonight's about galactic beings. Now, as last week, I'm going to be interviewed by someone called Kenna. Now, I've known Claire for a long time. She has a great connection with galactic beings herself, and she's going to be throwing all the questions at me. So I'm hoping they're going to be meaty ones, because that's what I'm ready for. And because it's not just me here. I've got to tell you that. It's not just me here. I've got other beings with me. No, you can't see them, or some people can see them and behind me energetically. But there are many beings here with me that are here to help answer questions. So tonight, as usual, when you do throw some questions in, you get the opportunity to win a free half-hour spirit guide reading. So we've got tonight's winner, and it's Shelley Burns. So Shelley, we're going to be getting some information out to you about that, and getting in contact with you so we can make a booking to give you your free spirit guide reading. Congratulations. Who else we got? We've got Alison Barford. Hey, Alison. And we've got Emma. G'day, Emma. Joanna. And look, really hoping that we get lots of people on tonight, because I know it's going to be a big night. I've just got a feeling. So, and I'd really like to thank everyone that does come on board for these evenings. It's why I'm doing it. It's for the people out there that are wanting more information, particularly at this time. It's such a huge pivotal time for humanity at the moment, with all the stuff that's being thrown at us. It's really powerful these nights. Hi, Corinda. And it will be great to have as many people as we can get on board. So don't forget to let other people know. So tonight, as usual, we're going to start off with a grounding exercise. This whole reason for this grounding exercise is to help to keep you stable through these times ahead. Because the first thing that gets hit when people are taking on fear and anxiety of what's going on is the base chakra. That destabilizes our whole chakra system. And then we're very open to manipulation. And that's just what we don't want to be. So very important to be stable and strong. Hi, Sherry. And Paul. G'day, Paul. Okay, so let's start this grounding exercise. Should only go for about 10 minutes, guys. Here we go. So just find a nice, comfortable place to sit. Hopefully you're already there. And closing your eyes. And taking some nice, deep, full conscious breaths. And with those conscious breaths, remember, this is not just about taking in oxygen. This is actually more so about taking in life force. And I've got to tell you, a lot of spiritual people out there don't realize this, that we can't survive without life force. This is a commodity that people need. Every living being needs it, but people need it to survive, to keep going. If we're not getting it in a healthy way, guess where we have to take it from? Other people. So we don't want to be doing that. All right. So with those breaths, taking those nice, deep, full breaths of oxygen and life force in, knowing that it's this life force that feeds your chakra system, that feeds your physical body, mental, emotional, and spiritual. So with each breath, just imagine that that breath in is pulling that life force in, and the breath out is literally guiding that life force to all of the chakras, so that we can absorb that life force to keep us going. But not just to keep us going, to actually feel strong, feel everything we can be. Okay, so let's get a bit more directive with that life force now. With the next deep breath in, pulling that life force in again consciously, then with the breath out, I'd like you to push that life force down through your body, your base chakra, your legs, your feet, and down into the earth. And just keep doing that until you feel a tingling or a vibration or a warmth going down through your feet into the earth. Then you know you're connected. Keep doing that same cycle of breathing, taking in life force, then breathing it out, down through the body, base chakra, legs and feet, and down into the earth. Very cool. Okay, so you should have that one by now. So we're not going to stop there. Our energy system has the capability to integrate with the whole energy system, has the capability to integrate within the Earth's energy system. So we don't stop at the base chakra going down. We have a string of chakras that go right down to the core of the Earth. So what we're going to do is go right down through the whole lot and anchor down into that Earth chakra, which is at the core of the Earth. That is our deepest chakra point. So with the next deep breath in, pulling that life force in again, and this time with the breath out, pushing that life force right down to the core of the Earth. Don't worry about distance. Energy moves instantly. Energy is all about intention. If your intention is to connect with that deep Earth chakra, that's where it's going to go. Remember, nice deep full breaths. And with the breath out, pushing that down, straight down to the core of the Earth, to your Earth chakra. This is the deepest connection you can get with the Earth that I know of up until this point. Okay, so a recognition of connecting with that Earth chakra is sometimes just a feeling or a knowing. It can also be an overall feeling of peace, or even a tingling feeling, an effervescence through your energy. I've had some people say their legs feel like they're so solid and so anchored into the earth. That can be it as well. All right. So now that you've got that, what we're going to do now is that's your grounding, but we want to also raise your frequency above anything of a negative nature that can affect you. So we have a part of our energy system called our core star energy. This is the essence of God, creator, universe, whatever you want to call that. It's all the same thing that's deep inside of us. It's also outside of us, but what we're connecting with is that aspect of it inside of us. So knowing that we're far more than physical, first of all, I want you to connect with the physical body right in the center of the physical body. Just feel that presence right in the middle of your body. But knowing that we're far more than that, I want you to dive off that point into your energy system, which is like a whole universe inside of you. I want you to dive into there, right into the core of that. Just keep diving deeper and deeper into that universe inside of you. From that point, once you can feel, see, or sense a high vibrational energy source or a light, you've got it. You've found it. then when you can see, sense, or feel that, you're in control. So what I'd like you to do is just set an intention to expand that light out through your energy system. Just keep that radiating out from deep in your core, filling up that universe inside of you, then bring it up into the physical body. And once you connect with the physical, imagining every cell in your body is being literally raised in frequency by that light, that core star energy. Then beginning to expand that out, not just in your body, but beyond your body into your energy system, into the, let's say, the first 9 to 10 energy bodies, which is about 3 to 4 meters out in all directions around you, filling that space with light. All right, so from there, now we're going to build that light up. Imagine putting that light under pressure until it just wants to explode. I want you to keep filling that space with light. And you'll feel it get more intense, which is great. You're doing the perfect thing. Now on the count of 3, what I want you to do is let that light explode out in all directions. So your energy system is incredibly vast. What you're going to be doing is filling that space and beyond. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, and 3. Just let it go out limitlessly, no boundaries. Now, as you're expanding it out, most people initially, all they feel they're doing, which is not just all, but it's the presence of how we look at things. We feel we're expanding it out through space, but let's go beyond that and expand it out through time and dimension, so that our presence is felt on all of those levels. And it means we're actually connecting on all of those levels too. So with time, what I'd like you to do is imagine that light expanding out through into your future to the most optimum spiritual path that you can possibly take. And just keep that light running out through into your future. And what that will do is that whole strong spiritual path that you could be taking is basically lit with that high vibrational energy. And all you need to do is follow that energy. So when it comes to a decision time, feel which has the highest frequency, the different paths that you could possibly take. And that's the path to pick. So we're nearly finished. All right. So just beginning to bring your awareness. Don't pull that light in. You can leave that expanded out. But what I would like you to do is bring your awareness back to your physical body. Taking a few deep breaths. Pulling in that life force once again. And then with the breath out, pushing that energy down through your body, your base chakra, your legs and feet, and then once again down into the earth. Just to bringing your body back into this time zone, this space, and your physical body. And just a few hellos to say. I think I said hello to Sherry. Hey, Jasmine. Jasmine's here. We've got Lucy Lalant. Hey, Lucy. Excellent. So everyone's back, I think. All right, guys. So, yep, everyone's back. All right. So here's where we can say hello to Claire when she's ready. Here she is. So, folks, this is Claire Kenna.
Hello, everybody. So great to be here.
I've known Claire for quite a long time. We've worked together. We've done quite a bit of work together, and it's been a really great experience to work with Claire. And Claire, I'm not running the show tonight. You are, so you can throw the
Over to
questions at
me.
me.
Yeah, what an honour to be in this container interviewing you.
Oh,
I
thank
just
you.
want to give a little bit of an intro into how I know Matthew. So I'm a shamanic practitioner too. Matthew is one of my mentors, and he's been a incredible teacher over the last couple of years. So I was connected to guides at the time that I met Matthew, but not galactics. And since working with Matthew, I have absolutely expanded that. So I feel very intimate with some galactics, and I can feel that I can converse with galactics quite well now. And it's just opened up a whole new frontier for me. So yeah, it's been quite expansive in so many ways. I think coming into this work with you, I feel what I was most curious about, Matthew, is I had been connecting with guides for so many years, but why is it now that the galactics are coming through so strongly for so many people? Because it's not just my experience,
No.
it's many others too. Yeah.
Good. It's a really good question. It's where humanity's at. So, I've talked about this, I've banged on about this one quite a lot in other conversations about spirituality, but about 12 to 13 years ago, there was a raising in frequency that started. Now, it's not that it's just happening here to us, to humans, it's happening to the whole planet, it's happening to this sector of the universe. And that's what's driving spiritual growth on the planet. So spiritual growth's going through an incredible renaissance period of opening, but it's not just that either. It's actually shifting not just positive energy to the fore, but it's also making negative energy, so lower vibrational energy, manipulation and control. It's really showing that up to what it is. So the truth of all this manipulation that's going on, particularly at the moment, is beginning to come out. And just be prepared, guys, for it to really be showing itself over the next few months. There's going to be massive amounts of things that are obvious to a few, but not obvious to everyone, and it's going to spin some people out. So, and I'm looking forward to that.
It is beginning to unravel for sure. I just wanted to let everyone know, if you have questions, please pop them in the chat and we will get to them. If you've got any questions for Matthew, this is the time to be asking them.
And I should say, sorry, Claire, to jump in, but I probably didn't finish that answer. So why galactic beings are here now, why they're involving themselves more, is because of that same thing, that as our frequency raises, we're becoming more aware, we're becoming more aware of them, and they're running on an agenda that they can only help us as we help ourselves. So as we do grow spiritually, then they can actually be a stronger guide for us. And it's just getting stronger and stronger, and it's bypassing their guesstimations of how fast we were going to be growing incredibly. So it's pretty exciting time all around. There's a lot of frustrated beings out there that want to work with us more, but know they have to hold this certain pace of how much they help us, just because of laws of the universe and laws that they're guided by. So, a good question.
Yeah, and Matthew, I think it'd be great to know as well. I experience galactic energy through meditation, and there's different forms that they come through. But what are some of those ways that people can connect with galactics? Because that consciousness is available to everybody.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Look, meditation is a good way, but also just by feeling, when we start to become more in tune with our senses, this is a really powerful way that they begin to communicate with us. So there can be sort of telltale signs that it's a galactic being rather than a guide. Sometimes there can be a spinning of energy around us. Also, there can be, with some people, ringing in their ears. It depends. Everyone's kind of wired a little bit differently with their sensory abilities. Some sensory abilities are stronger than others. But if you have any doubts or any questions on this, and particularly if you're in that beginning stage, then talk to someone who has had experience with galactic beings so that you don't have fear. And generally, what these beings are wanting to do, they can read us really clearly. Just like we see, humans see night and day and see, physical things. Most galactic beings can see our auras. Now, this is a dead giveaway for us because everything is contained within our energy system. So they can see whether we're, let's say, we're not carrying any fear, and and if we're interested on that level, if our energy is capable of them communicating with us, then they'll certainly use that information that they can see in our aura to make a stronger connection. And
Right.
and it's not just communication that's going on. They're showing themselves physically on occasions to help get that information out to people that they exist and they're around.
And you've had an experience of that, haven't you?
I've had a couple, well, more than a
Yeah.
couple. I have talked about this one in the past, but I saw
Yeah, right.
one being out in the forest who we didn't talk. It was kind of I don't know, it seemed all a bit set up to me. It's not too often you would surprise a galactic being in a forest. I think he knew, or someone set up that we were to meet, and I was told many years ago that this was going to begin to happen, where physical sightings, very close-up sightings, were going to happen. I've also seen a water being in one of the reservoirs out here, a finned being, still standing on two legs, has two arms, but looks quite different to us. So they're probably the two main experiences I've had.
Joanna has just asked a question, Matthew.
Yeah.
And she said, at this time, I'm going through a very emotional time. At times, I feel as though someone has touched me. Is this just me overthinking?
No, look, please don't overthink. It's one of the biggest things that we're impacted as we get older from our youth is our level of sensitivity. Quite often we dismiss our sensitivity, and so the head comes in and questions every little thing, and we don't actually follow through like we would have as a child. And we're taught to grow up and fit in with society, and all of that tends to smother our sensitivity. So it's really important that you trust what you're feeling. And I would say, look, I wasn't there with you, Joanna, but I could, definitely say it would have been either a galactic being or one of your guides. Guides can connect with you quite strongly. Look, even spirits can. It takes a lot for them to do that, but some spirits can definitely do that. You can have a physical feeling from them. But to me, I think this is more around a guide or a galactic being. One of the things with galactic beings, they've been watching us for a long time, and they watch us in how we interact with our guides. And they've learnt to come in at the same frequency as our guides on that communication level. So it can seem very similar when you're communicating with a galactic being as with a guide, because they do they know how to work energy really well.
So that's really where intuition comes into play and just trusting what we get, isn't it?
Most definitely, yeah. And being grounded too. Grounding's such an important part of this. A lot of people in the old days thought that to be able to connect with galactic beings and guides, you had to be working with your the higher chakras from the heart up, and that's total fallacy. Base chakra is the stabilizing factor with all of the chakras, and if your base chakra is strong, then the rest of the chakras tend to stay stable and strong too. So you get much more if you're really grounded, like incredibly grounded, you get much more out of your upper chakras than you would if you weren't grounded.
And just for everybody about grounding, because it is such an important point and it is something that you teach a lot about. But grounding is, when I first came into the work, I didn't really understand what grounding was other than putting my feet in the sand. So can you just give a little bit of a recap of what grounding really is? Is that being very stable in your base chakra? How would you describe it?
So let's start with what destabilizes the base chakra first, and which I think a lot of people will probably understand more so. So what destabilizes the base chakra is old memories, suppressed trauma from childhood or even from earlier years in your life. And quite often that stuff is held at a suppressed level where we're not conscious of it. That's what actually minimizes the base chakra energy and disconnects us from being here on the planet. And really an extension of that is depression. So when you can actually work your base chakra more, and which is really an exercise in connecting with the Earth's energy system, because we incarnate on a planet at this time, and the planet we're on is Earth. The Earth has an energy system. We have an energy system. And for us to be at our optimum, we need to be integrated into the Earth's energy system. We're no different to a car or a house. A house and a car needs to be earthed to function. But we do too. We're no different. That grounding exercise I've worked on that one for a lot of years to get that as simple as possible. And that's about as simple as I can get it up to this point.
Well, it's such important work, to be as clear as we can be. And that really just means that we clear the trauma, or we move through, we integrate all that we need that we haven't, and so that we have more of that energy to flow through. And when we have that energy to flow through, the more work I've done in that grounding space, what Matthew was talking about, the more I've been able to connect as well to these beings. We've got some great questions coming through. So Cherie has said, I've been feeling quite heavy in the head this past week around the eyes, especially in the morning, like I've not slept. Is the energy in the atmosphere? Is it the energy in the atmosphere?
Good question. Look, one thing I'm really conscious of is a technology that's been being used across the planet probably for about the last 30 years or so. It's called Harp Technology. Now, Harp Technology is supposedly what it is, from my understanding and from the beings I've talked to, is extraterrestrial technology that's been adapted initially to change weather patterns, because basically the powers that be know that the weather patterns are not functioning as they should do. And so they've been trying to manipulate the weather with, as well as chemtrails or geoengineering, they've been trying to manipulate the weather with this technology that has the ability to change frequency. But what they've also been using it to do, as normal with the military and governments, they're using it in a negative way to manipulate warfare and to change weather patterns in a war situation or a battle situation. But they can also use that HARP technology to project a certain frequency at people, a community, or perhaps who they're fighting. But they're not just doing that anymore. They're projecting it at us. And so we were heavily hit with that probably about 2.5 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. I felt it really strongly, and I just knew exactly what it was. So everything has a frequency, and that includes emotions. So when we have those emotions projected at us as a frequency, and that relates to fear, anxiety, anger, frustration. When that's projected at us, it brings up that frequency in us, which promotes those emotions in us, and so it really just messes with people's energy, and particularly their base chakra energy, if it's not strong. This is why it's so important to be doing that exercise on a regular basis. It's the only thing I know of so far that will actually help support your energy system through these, and I'll say radical changes that are going on, sometimes several times a day. There can be changes. It can be at a consciousness level. It can be Harp Technology. It can be earth changes, because the earth frequency is spiking all the time. The solar activity is affecting that, and there's been a lot of solar activity that's spiking the Schumann resonance, which is the word they give to the resonance of the earth, and it's a way of judging what that resonance is. And it was supposed to be 432 megahertz, but it's just gone way beyond that now. I don't think it's been at 432 for a long time. So, and this is partly to do with this raising in frequency that's going on, but it's also all the messing around that's being done to us too. So,
yeah, there's a lot of erratic energy, isn't there, at the
yeah,
moment? Yeah.
hugely.
So Lucy has asked a question.
Yep.
Is everyone capable of speaking or signing light language? And if so, is this the only way if communicating with them to communicate with them, or is it also telekinesis?
Kinesis. Yeah.
Kinesis, yeah. Can you explain how you communicate with them?
Okay. So, great question, Lucy. Just like we connect with guides, and this is done through learning to still your mind. And dare I be a broken record here, being grounded also. But through meditation, learning to still your mind, so all of that everyday stuff isn't impacting you. Now, one of the things that does actually make your head very messy is a lot of suppressed energy that we can be hanging on to. And so all of those things are really what stops us from being able to communicate with these beings. Once you've actually got a handle on that stuff, once you've learnt how to still your mind and to meditate, then it's about trusting your feelings, and trusting your ability to pick up on little subtle changes in your energy. And look, light language isn't, I've got to say, I know a lot of people do it, and I wouldn't dare knock that, because I know a lot of people get a lot out of light language, but I just connect with them through words. Now, probably something we need to say here is not all beings understand English or communicate through the English language, but how we work, when we're communicating on a mind level, on an energy level, how we tick is we work through not just verbal, we work through feeling, through thought, and through memories of an experience that we're trying to convey to someone. So when you're actually communicating with a being, you're actually working through the feeling and through thought. Now, we have a filter within us that's actually very capable of picking up on those aspects. But the biggest thing that obviously gets in the way, which we've already talked about, is that ability to trust our feelings. Because the one thing that will happen generally, particularly when your base chakra is not strong, is your head comes in and it questions the living bejeebers out of everything, and so it kind of shuts the spiritual door and doesn't allow you to trust your feelings. The head comes in and questions everything, and you basically you're stuck in your head then. So if that does happen, just reground your energy and then go back into your heart. Really, that's what we need to do is connect again with the heart chakra. Because generally if the base chakra has been dropped out, the heart's dropped out too, to a degree. So,
and to connect to the heart, you connect to feeling.
Exactly, yeah. That's all
it's
about
the way
feeling.
To the heart.
Yeah.
And so Paul has a question. Hey, brother Paulie here. I'm braiding
Hey,
your
Paul.
sweetgrass as we speak. Question I'm asking is, does sweetgrass attract galactics too, as well as spirits?
I've never asked them. Let me ask now. Well, the ones I've got around me, they're kind of looking at each other, and they understand through me what sweetgrass is. It's not of their planet. They do have herbs and plants that a lot of them do work with that that they're obviously very familiar with. It's the Native American culture is what sweetgrass is about. It is really that's the culture that uses. I mean, there are lots of people using it now, but originally it was the Native Americans. But just as the Native Americans use sweetgrass and sage and other herbs, many other cultures use herbs that are native to their country. And so it's kind of like you've got all of these different categories of people that connect to different herbs from their country. Galactics are no different. They have plants and essences that they work with from theirs too. So some of them have certainly experienced the herbs from the earth, because a lot of them over many, many hundreds of years have been connected to the native cultures. There is a very strong defining connection with extraterrestrial galactic beings and native cultures, because they're very grounded, they're very much in balance, and they know where the native cultures, I mean, they know that they're actually not from this earth originally. They're actually from out there too.
So I've got a few questions for you now.
Yeah. Cool.
Like I always do.
Yes.
So I think with galactics, when I first was introduced to them, I just sort of interpreted that most of them that are coming here into our awareness are for the greater good.
Yes.
But since working with them for quite a number of months, and I think it's on 18 months, a year and a half now, I have come across some darker beings that are galactics. So just in the human race, we have duality. There are people who abuse power. There are, ill-intentioned.
That's right.
It's the same in the galactic space, isn't it? So
Yep.
how do we, when we open up this container, so to speak, we don't know sometimes what's coming in. So how do we, if we're going to work with this, what is your advice, encouragement on how to do so in a safe way? Because we don't want to open up Pandora's box, which can happen.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Look, again, probably here's the broken record again. The more grounded our energy is, the less anything of a negative nature can get in. And raising your core star energy is so important to raising your frequency, so that you won't attract, and also it just won't allow negative entities to come into your space. But we need to kind of define what's negative. So a lot of people have kind of heard of reptilian energy. I mean, reptilian energy has been here since the dawn of humanity. And a lot of that energy has been trapped here in the Earth's energy grid. It hasn't been able to actually release from here. Its origins aren't from here, but it's because of the frequency that the Earth has been at for a long time that energy has been stuck here. So it's basically just been recycling through different humans that have negative qualities in there that aren't grounded, and are happy to use those negative qualities. And what reptilian energy does, it's a very parasitic energy, which most pure negative entities are. It doesn't matter where they come from, they're mostly parasitic. So what they'll do is to tap into anything of a negative nature that you are. And so really the onus is on us to be stronger, clearer, grounded, and connected, and then nothing can get in. And that includes not just negative entities, but negative people, negative people's thoughts, any sort of negative energy at all, from spirits. It could be from anything. But one rule of thumb, whether it be with guides or positive galactic beings, is if they're telling you to do something you don't want to do, or if they're telling you to do something, number one, guides don't tell you what to do. That word guides is the relevant word that describes guides. They are literally just that. They will give you information. It's up to you what you do with that. That information will always be there for your highest, because that's why they're there. If they're telling you to do stuff you don't want to do, well, then they're not guides. They're tricksters. They're negative entities or spirits. Galactic beings are pretty much the same, but there's kind of a grey area in between, which is this is where the the answer gets a bit interesting. I've experienced over the years some of the situations that are going on, which are still going on, is we've been observed by many cultures. There is a force of positive beings that have been here watching over us for a long period of time. It's called the Galactic Alliance. But there has been, let's say, outside contractors that have come in with permission to observe us, take notes, view our energy as to how it's changing, because this has been a big thing for particularly the Galactic Alliance. They've been wanting a real overview of the whole planet of how humanity is growing. And so supposedly there's about 21 to 22 different groups of cultures, galactic beings, that are outside of the Alliance that have been coming in, taking notes and just inspecting us. Some of these beings don't have an understanding of personal space. And so there's quite a few occasions I've had several beings just showing up and really being very much in your face, because quite often their culture, and this is what we have to understand, just as they're trying to understand us, we need to learn to understand them too, because not all beings, galactic beings, think, act, and have a society like we do. Geez, I hope they don't. Our society's pretty screwed up at the moment. And so what some of these beings, how they think, is they don't see anything, they don't understand anything about personal space. They just have a job and they just do it. It's very clinical, and they can be a little bit invasive. Now, this can be looked upon as a negative entity. Yeah, it's all in the way you look at it, I guess. But yes, they are being negative, because sometimes they come in really close quarters, and they are very invasive, and they're the ones that I guess are learning very quickly that we are conscious on different levels, and that one is personal space. And a lot of strong people who are very aware of this have basically pushed them out of their space. And we do need to be strong around this sort of stuff, and because it's helping to educate them on how we are as a race. So I hope that helps.
Yeah. Yeah. Another question, and it's a bit of a tricky one, but I'm sure we'll get there with it.
Hmm.
But I wanted to sort of ask you the way that they have the intel on us. So these galactics have such great intel on Earth as a planet and us as a species.
Yep.
Are there people on Earth that have the same intel into other galactics? Or is it just the way that we connect with them seems to be a lot less than the way that they can connect to us and our energy? Why
Yeah.
is that?
A lot of this has to do that we just don't realize how to. We can
Right.
we can do exactly what they're doing to, well, mostly what they're doing to us. So they have the ability to work with us on an energetic level where they can be on their craft or on their home planet, and they can project their energy. There's a term for this that a lot of people might understand. It's similar to remote viewing, which is really looked upon as a one-way ability to view. The Russians and the Americans were working on this in the Cold War,
Right.
and for kind of like spies on a different level. But they would get groups of people who were very capable psychically and clairvoyantly to focus on one particular installation, and they would look at all of the information that those individuals would get, and there'd be a common thread throughout, and that's the way they've learnt to work. Now I know
Okay.
for a fact that they can do far more than that these days. So, but these beings that can view us and view what we're doing and view our energy, they can also communicate with us too. Now, there's a assumption that we're not capable of that, or there was an assumption that we're not capable of that. And myself and a few others that I know, but I know there are plenty of other people out there that can do this too. So we can do exactly that same thing. Once it's really interesting. Once we've met a being or a person, we connect with their energy signature. So it's like an indelible part of that being that isn't any other being. It's just that being. And once when we think about that being, then and we focus clear enough, we can go directly to where they are. It doesn't matter where they are. The only thing that limits our abilities on this level is our mind, the thought that we're not capable of doing that. But it's just knowing how to. Once you know how to, it's actually a lot easier. And when they're those those people that can do this are learning to communicate even further and learning to understand their culture. And I've done this on a few occasions. And it's really interesting when you start seeing how they live and you think, oh my God, I wish we were doing that here. To do things
Yeah.
to do with education around spiritual growth and around eating and around relationships and around physical body and exercise and all different aspects of life. Um, so the communication that's going on with us can certainly be much more expansive than it is now, and it's starting to. It's growing. But they're just in relation to your question, how they're viewing us, or how they're actually viewing us, is through that way. But also, they're physically here too, and they have the capability. Some of them have the capability to slip in and out of phase. Now, what I mean
Yeah.
by phase is like the time and space of where we are and how we exist in the universe, which is a dimensional thing. They can all they need to do is slip slightly out of that phase. It's only a minute level, and suddenly we can't see them, but they can see us. And
Interesting.
this is a
Yeah.
real powerful way to observe us. They can be right beside us. We can't even feel their energy. Well, we are starting to be able to do that. And so they've got all kinds of ways of just observing us.
Yeah.
So,
And this is another rabbit hole that we can go down another
oh
time. But
yeah,
even
yeah,
our soul history, you know, there's been times that we've been in other realms as well, most of
yes,
us, that
yeah,
have not been earth based. And so, you know, that's an opening of another can of worms
yeah, very
there.
much.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's many branches to the spiritual tree, right? But I know that I grew up in a world where I felt like I grew up very conditioned that there's nothing else that exists, you know, and I really like the actual thought of galactics was just totally sci-fi movie for me. It was not something that was a reality. And so just
Mm.
to uncondition, you know,
Yes,
that the of what I had been conditioned, and that's so many people's experience. And I think as we start to open our awareness and evolve more as
yeah,
a species,
exactly.
then that will
Yep,
open up. Yeah.
cool.
I'm going to address the elephant in the room. And yeah, I love throwing a bomb in, just a grenade
That
sometimes.
this will this might have to be our last question, but yeah, I'm ready for it.
Yeah. Look, I think that just in the nature of the time that we're in,
Mm.
it's hard not to bring up COVID, right? Because
Yep.
it's affecting everyone depending on your experience. We've all varied, but it's affecting everyone. So the Galactics, I know, have a lot to their input. They have a lot to contribute,
Mm.
and I know that you've been in communication with them about things. I think a question that I think is really relevant is why is Australia being hit so hard?
Mm. And we are being hit really hard
Yeah.
on many levels with this whole control and manipulation, and it's really, this goes back to the way the cultures that went to new worlds would interact with native beings. It was all about divide and conquer, and they're dividing people, and this is such a powerful thing. So, so what the galactic beings are doing at the moment, like I said right in the beginning, is they have to work to an agenda, and that agenda is not a negative one. It's one that limits them to a fair degree about how much they can help us. It all depends on us. Um, so how hard we fight for our ability to stay free, our freedom to express, to live without control, and there are things that are going on behind the scenes that I can't talk about that they're doing. Um, I know they're in communication with not just regular, say regular people. Um, they're in communication with a lot of people that are high up in situations in look, companies, governments who are doing really good work, and even to do with the laws that are trying to be passed without us knowing. There are many good lawyers out there that are working not just for the people, but for something much bigger, which is connecting with galactic beings as well. Maybe not all of them are connecting with galactic beings, but there are many officials out there that are far more than they let on. And these things are happening, but why Australia is being hit so hard with this is because when you think about Australia, we've been going since for a bit over 200 years, and we're very much a mishmash of different cultures. And look, Australia has, particularly over the last, I'd say, 50 to 60 years, we've had a reputation as being a very relaxed people. You know, we're broad as far as our understanding of other cultures, and so there's a lot of relaxed ways that we think and way we integrate with other cultures. But also because of that relaxed attitude and no real fixed social indoctrination that a lot of older countries have, we're really fresh, and there's a lot of people that are very free with their spirituality, and they have really jumped on the spiritual growth wagon. And Australia has probably it has the biggest degree of spiritual awakening on the planet. Certainly there's spiritual awakening happening everywhere, but Australia per capita has more people opening up spiritually than anywhere else. Now,
Interesting.
We talked about this a little bit last week, but the whole reason this control and manipulation is going on is to stop us growing spiritually. I said earlier about this raising in frequency that's going on, that's driving spiritual growth. Spiritual growth is not what's wanted by the elite, by people that are in control of the countries and societies. And so dare I say it, the vaccine is really an incredibly powerful way of knocking out our pineal gland and turning us into a huge aerial, because there's nanotechnology in it. I defy anyone to say, prove to me that it's not. And that nanotechnology has the capability of being affected by Harp Technology and by other different technologies that will manipulate us and is manipulating people. So what's going on is we're the test case, because we're probably the country they fear the most because of the amount of spiritual growth that's going on. Literally, they do not want the general public to be independent and have independent thought. They want us to be cattle and sheep. And unfortunately, it's at the moment, it seems to be there's a lot of compliance going on. And we need to be fighting for our rights, for our freedom, and for the right just to be capable of living a life that we want to live. So that's one of the big reasons why we're being hit hard, because we're a test case for the rest of the world. So
Very
I
interesting.
hope that answers that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So
There's so much to the current times, and what's going
yeah.
on.
Look, again, this is a rabbit warren of an
Yeah.
answer and a question too. So it can go many different directions. But maybe we should have a look at some of the comments that are happening.
Yeah.
Sherry's saying, well, me and my daughter have felt the same way. That explains it. Thank you, Matthew. Lucy's going, oh, thank you so much for the detailed response. That was a bit earlier. Good question. There you go. Thought so, Sherry's saying. Christina's saying definitely. So I know Christina's over in Victoria, where you are.
Yeah.
And you guys are getting hit pretty hard over there, just as New South Wales is. Maybe just to finalise off things, because you're from Victoria, can you tell us just a little bit, just over a minute or so, what the conditions are over there at the moment?
So I'm based in Melbourne. Is Christina in Melbourne too?
Yes.
Yeah. So we've just come. Well, I mean, we've just come out of effectively lockdown after I've lost count, but it's like 260 days, something crazy. And really, there's nothing that's really changed for anyone that is unvaxxed. So people can now travel. I think there was a 10K or 15K limit. Now they can travel. They can't go regionally, but they can go within Melbourne. And restaurants have reopened, pubs, there's salons, hairdressers have reopened, but this is also vaccinated. And then I think there's, so it's still pretty iffy, and masks are everywhere, which is fine, and all of that. But it's going to be a little bit bumpy, I think, for quite some time.
Yep. Yeah.
But then who's to know? Yeah, there's really not much that's shifted, even though that they've said to a large degree. There are things that are reopening, but it's all within certain constraints.
Yeah. Look, one of the
Yeah.
things, just to probably finalise tonight, is the next 2 to 3 months is going to be pretty rocky. Everyone that is not complying is going to be heavily controlled and manipulated to comply. Just do your best to stay strong, and change is going to be happening from about January onwards, I've been told. So let's hope and pray that happens. Things are very changeable. It could happen quicker, but there is hope, and it is coming, and we just need to be doing the same thing we always should be doing, which is grounding, working on our personal issues, our baggage, and being the strongest us we can be. So, look, on that note, I think we'll wind it up. But thanks very much, Claire. It was a great night. Great questions. Really appreciate it. And
Thank you for having me.
oh, that's
Such a joy to be here.
No, it was great. And look, there's the invitation. If anyone out there wants to interview me about any spiritual subject, I'm happy to have a chat with you, and let's see if we can get that to happen, and we'll do this again. So thanks again, and we'll see you down the track.